had people on our podcast, including Martin Wolf, who have argued that capitalism and democracy are inextricably linked. And I wanted to read you something that you've written. And you wrote, if Chinese and Singaporean meritocracies continue to consistently outperform societies where the social sphere is organized in a democratic fashion, there is, I think, little doubt that their appeal will be such that in 100 years, it may seem to those who are around so very quaint that people thought in a complex society social decisions should be taken by democratic vote. So I think you're a little bit more skeptical about the idea that capitalism and democracy are linked.
You know, I'm very much, in some sense, quite an economist after all. And for me, I have to say, since I was really a kid, actually, when you alluded to that, I remember reading, for example, newspapers and reading, that was always in small letters, what was the industrial rate of growth of Yugoslavia over this month. And I would be, in those days, that was early 70s, I would be very disappointed if it would not be double digit. And it was not. It was like 7-8%, which nowadays looks high. Why did I mention that? Because I think really economic growth is fundamental. And I think that there is a trade-off that people are directly or indirectly willing to make between so-called political liberties and economic growth. And if you sort of think, as I think some people in China do, or maybe even Singapore, as I mentioned there, is that the organization of society is essentially such as an organization of a company. In a company, in capitalism, you don't have democracy. The company is run hierarchically. So you can say, okay, the society is also run like that, and let's see what is the outcome. Is the outcome good or is bad? And if the majority of people say, okay, it is run hierarchically, but the right people are there on top, and they are running us, and I'm not interested how they have come there, maybe through some sort of, mutual sort of decision-making as in the Communist Party, it's okay with me. So in that sense, I think that there is that there is acceptance of a trade-off between democratic or rights and economic growth. Many people don't, and including John Rawls, who actually believe that really there cannot be a trade-off. He explicitly says, no trade-off. But he also said that really greater wealth is not an objective that normal people in normal societies should have. He said it was a businessman objective, but not really normal people. And that's why he believed that actually economic wealth is not so important. But for an economist, that comes like a heresy. Economic wealth is really crucial for us. So that to conclude, I think I would not agree that there is no trade-off. And secondly, I would also argue that if you look historically, there are many cases of successful capitalism without democracy. I'm not talking now about Pinochet in Chile. I will tell you, like Louis Napoleon Napoleon III in France, with economic sort of takeoff of France, with Bismarck in Germany, with Spain and Portugal, with Greece, with Turkey, with Brazil. So, if you take all of these countries historically, and including the United States, it was, of course, originally and a slave-owning oligarchy. So it's not democratic. So I would question that even empirically the link between the two is strong.
Actually, first of all, I come from a country that really blossomed with democracy because Italy took off. The Italian miracle is a miracle of democracy. Yeah. So, and I'm a little bit scared that you sound like Irving Curtis that say that countries should be run like corporations. There is a fundamental difference between the two. Because you can choose among corporations, at least until there is a little bit of competition, but most people cannot choose across countries. So they don't have the exit option that we have in corporations. So that's pretty scary.
No, I'm just saying that actually that many people might think that the rules which are at the corporate level, which are hierarchical rules, because you can also say, and there, of course, as you know, the whole literature about transforming the workplace to become a democratic workplace. Well, it seems not to work. It seems that we want to have hierarchical organizations in order for the companies to work better. What happens if we also it turns out, that was the quote, that hierarchically organized societies outperform economically non-hierarchical organized society? And just if I may, I think the countries that have gone through dictatorship into democracy and had economic growth continue and had an increased international importance are countries very happy with democracy. And I'll give you a few. Italy, as you mentioned. Spain, definitely. Liberalization in the domestic life, much greater importance of Spain as such. Poland, currently, a country which has actually grown in importance tremendously, both economically and politically, and Chile, I would say as well. So the countries where this transition has been linked with social democratization, liberalization, and with the greater importance of the country and consequently pride, I think they are very stable. I mean, they may not be in the future, but currently countries where democracy is very highly praised or valued. If you take Russia, well, democracy was a failure, and that's why we have the situation now.
So if America's capitalists care about preserving democracy, what should they do? What should we do?
Well, that's a difficult question, isn't it?
Sorry.
Well, I think in order to preserve democracy, one has to have a variety of voices being heard. And the variety of voices has to be expressed also through the political arena. That, in my opinion, means a much lower role for private money. Unfortunately, this is, of course, something that is not very realistic because both parties depend very much on money. And there are, of course, as you know, studies that show that. Actually, there was a very nice book that the book bought recently at Brookings, which goes into very huge detail. So, you know, I would ask them if they would all decide not to contribute and to use money to run the political system. But, you know, that is a double commitment. Maybe I would agree with that, but you might not agree with that. And, of course, in that case, I'm not going to do it either myself. But I believe that diversity is absolutely crucial. Let's put it like that. And I think if there is a need to maintain something, it's diversity of opinion.